Hi friends, welcome back to Dip Clinic. If you're new to the channel, my name's Mike and I'm a cognitive behavioural therapist and first year trainee doctor in health psychology. One thing that used to really frustrate me when I was training was that there was really complicated concepts in psychology that I just couldn't understand no matter how much I tried to research them. And so this is why today it's going to be our first episode in our crash course series. Today we're looking at cognitive behavioural therapy. Let's get started. Cognitive behavioural therapy is a psychotherapeutic intervention that we use to support individuals who are experiencing psychological or emotional distress. Cognitive behavioural therapy, or CBT, can really be broken down into three components. Firstly, we have our cognition, so this is what we think or what we're thinking. We have our behaviours, which is whatever we're doing at that moment. And we also have the therapeutic element, so this is working with an individual such as a therapist to provide a relationship and environment that facilitates positive change. Most frequently, CBT sessions are broken down into 50 minutes or 1 hour sessions that happen weekly, and the average individual will have anywhere between 6 and 20 sessions. CBT is one of the most effective talking therapies for psychological disorders including depression, anxiety, OCD, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And there are several distinct features about cognitive behavioural therapy that make it so effective. At the start of most CBT sessions, you will begin with an agenda. So this is where you can place things onto a list that you want to discuss in that session. Once this agenda's been set, we usually look at a formulation. And the formulation is usually putting together 4 components. And this is our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviours, and our physical sensations. Developing a formulation allows us to understand all of the client's difficulties and how they're interacting with each other. And ultimately what this allows us to do is to intervene at the specific points to help the person manage better. The majority of the CBT session looks at how we can modify our thoughts and change our behaviours so that we can develop more healthy coping mechanisms. Often what we see is that thoughts increase certain behaviours that may be detrimental to our well-being, and also these behaviours will have a negative impact on our thoughts sometimes. And so by working with the client to break down some of these negative patterns, we can help them to overcome difficulties in their life. Cognitive behavioural therapy as a treatment does put quite a lot of emphasis on the client, and so usually at the end of each session we will provide something that's called homework. And I actually prefer the word development because I think homework can be a little bit patronising. But really what this is taking some work away that we've managed to have a look at in the session and practicing these certain skills so that you can get familiar with using them in the future. So let's take the example of Jane, and Jane is very scared of social situations. Within the session, we may want to understand why Jane is avoiding these social situations, and let's say that she has certain thoughts that people will always be looking at me, judging me, and laughing at me. So here we have several distinct cognitions or thoughts. And so when Jane has these thoughts, these may cause her to avoid certain social situations. But avoiding these social situations is stopping Jane from updating these beliefs she has about social interactions. And so what we may do with Jane is have a look at these thoughts and say, well, what evidence would suggest that people are going to look at you and laugh at you? And we'd also probably introduce something called exposure. So allowing Jane to go into social situations to see if the worst case scenario that she's built in her mind actually does happen. Once Jane has learnt these skills that we've developed in the sessions and practiced them over a course of time, what we should start to begin to see is that Jane actually can handle social situations and most likely her thoughts will begin to change. And this is the most simple way that we use CBT to overcome difficulties. And so that's all the time we have today for it. I'll be coming out with a video in the near future discussing cognitive behavioural therapy in depth and the way that it works. But if you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like below and subscribe to the channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.